Welcome to The Sports Angle, live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. I'm your host, Rachiele. Let's get into it. We are here with Marcus Betts from the Alpha Betts Football Show, part of the Rise Up family. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rocco. It's good to be back, man.
All right. So when it comes to expansion, and the NFL, they haven't had one in about 19 years. The Houston Texans were the last one, but there's always been that discussion. There's been rumors, there's been speculation how they could add more teams and had two more in the next 10 years. Do you think that's a good idea, for one? And secondly, if it did happen, what cities would immediately come into your mind of who could be joining the NFL soon?
Well, yeah, I don't have a problem with expansion. You're right. We haven't had expansion in a while. The last two were the Browns and the Texans. So generally, when they come in two. So you have to look at it. Generally, you get an AFC team and an NFC team. So they always try to keep it even. So there's always two added to it. So the last time was the Browns and the Texans. And I believe the time before that was the Panthers and the Jags. So I was thinking, I was like, you know what? So, okay, we're going to add two teams. So I was like, you look at some of the states. You look at Texas. Texas has two teams. You got the Cowboys and the Texans. California used to have four teams. They used to have four teams. New York's got two teams. Florida's got three teams: Jacksonville, Miami, Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, we're going to branch out a little bit, and why not the largest city in North America? You know what city that is?
I don't know, but I think you're going to tell me.
Mexico City. Mexico City. If you ask people what is the largest city in North America, they would probably say New York. Mexico City is the largest city in North America. I think so. If we're going to do that, we're going to go Mexico City and Toronto.
Interesting choices. Tell me why.
Mexico City. Every now and then we have the international series with the NFL, and there's always a great turnout. Azteca Stadium in Mexico City, I think it holds 100,000 people.
Around
so
there.
You have, yeah. I mean, the Raiders go down there sometimes. Cowboys go down there. They love it. They love it. I believe that they could support the team. Biggest city in North America, the continent of North America. I think that they could do it. The logistics wouldn't be bad. Now, we've heard London. I think London would be a logistical nightmare. I mean, hell, it's a 6-hour flight from LaGuardia to London. The time difference, the flight. I don't really like that. I like how they're doing it now, kind of the international series. You go over there, because American football, let's keep it real. American football, as much as we love it over here, it doesn't have the same appeal in Europe. I think Toronto would be nice, because we're trying to expand the game and still have a fan base that kind of understands it. So, I think a lot of your Bills fans up north, a lot of the Canadians that like football, I think that they would jump on that. You see a guy like Drake who supports the Toronto Raptors. I think they would have, pretty damn good support over there. Oklahoma City, 643,000 people. You got the Thunder over there in the NBA. I think that they could do it. And then after that, the two cities that we've had before that lost their teams, San Diego and St. Louis. San Diego was a great town. I hated to see them leave. I think that they could support it. I mean, it was all over a stadium issue. And I mean, that's really what this comes down to. If you don't have a modern stadium, it's really hard to compete with some of these other uh, franchises. If you know, if you don't have the luxury suites and things like that. So somehow, some way, San Diego, great weather, probably the best weather in the country. Sunny California, I think they could do that. And St. Louis, you know, you look at those greatest show on turf teams, Kurt Warner, Marshall Falk up there. When they were doing their thing up there, it was pretty good. And again, they left because of stadium issues. So I look at those 5 cities there, but 2 of them would have to come in at a time. I'd like to see Toronto and Mexico City come in at the same time if they decide to do it, and then you know, bring San Diego or St. Louis back, and then the wild card being Oklahoma City.
Yeah, as we're talking about NFL expansion here on the Sports Angle, I'm your host, Rocco Rachiele. We're here with Marcus Betts from the Alphabet Football Show, part of the Razza family. Now, Mexico City is a really good idea. Toronto with the CFL, we've seen what they've done there. Now, London, the only reason why I won't count them out is because of how much the NFL wants it. We know that Roger Goodell wants London very badly. And Wembley Stadium is a really nice stadium. I don't know if it is meant for football. I mean, I know it's meant for football, but I don't know if it's meant for football.
Football.
So, I mean, but let's keep it in the United States for just a second, because they could branch out to multiple countries. But if it's the United States, what about a city like Orlando? Considering that the NFL loves to bring teams from Florida, what about Orlando? We saw what they did with the very brief AAF. We saw that Orlando has a really good relationship with the NFL because of the Pro Bowl. What about Orlando? Could they be a possible scenario?
Possibly. I'm looking at, you know, the success that Jacksonville has had, which hasn't been much, and I don't know. I want to see I want to see some states and some markets that haven't had the opportunity. Whenever the Seattle Supersonics moved from Seattle to Oklahoma City, everybody, oh, there's no way Oklahoma City can do it. And I mean, they love them over there. They absolutely love them. And it's near North Texas, where Dallas is. Football is king in the state of Texas. And Oklahoma, you got the Sooners there. I think Oklahoma would pick it up a little bit more, but Orlando, I mean, possibly. I'm sure they could probably pull it off. I'm sure they could probably pull it off.
And then we've heard about a city in New York that could have an NFL team, and that is Brooklyn. Because we've seen the success of the Brooklyn Nets. We've heard about everything going on with the New York Islanders when they were in Brooklyn. What do you think about the possibility of maybe a team in Brooklyn joining Buffalo as the 2 cities that have a team in New York?
Well, I think if the Jets want to do it, you know, they can move right down the street. Where that way they're not sharing a stadium with the Giants. But, you know, it all comes down to the main thing with having a franchise. When you're talking about you know, expanding or anything, the first conversation that always takes place is stadium. And then when you're talking stadium, you're talking about, you know, local jurisdictions. Do they want to, now you're talking taxation. So, you know, generally people don't want to pay more taxes. You know, people love having franchises in their city, but then you gotta tax people to get that stadium. These stadium costs, you know, you look at the stadium that was just built, you know, the 2 or 3 newer stadiums in the league, you're talking about $1 billion stadium, $1.5 billion. You look at the stadium with the Raiders in Las Vegas now. You look at what the Falcons did with the Falcons did in Atlanta. The stadium in New York, MetLife Stadium. I mean, these stadiums cost a lot of money. So, and if you don't have the support, the support to get it, I mean, you can lose money real fast. So could they do it? Possibly, yes. But that question's got to be answered. Where are you going to put the stadium at? Where are you going to put the stadium at? Those questions have to be answered. And if they're able to pull that off, yeah, they could possibly do that.
We're talking about NFL expansion here on the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rocco Rachiele. We're here with Marcus Betts from the Alpha Betts Football Show. Shout out to the Rise Up family. There are two cities that have had multiple NFL teams in it, and they no longer have a tenant. That is St. Louis, and that is Oakland. Now, Oakland, a lot of people are going to scoff at that, but hear me out on this. When it comes to Oakland, they were saying, oh, we're an NFL. Oh, we want the NFL. We want the NFL back. Well, how about you put your money where your mouth is? I'm always a firm believer that if you want something bad enough, you're going to show it. And with the MLB team getting a new stadium, I don't know if you saw about the rendering and the proposed stadium that the Oakland Athletics are getting. Why don't they try to go get a new NFL team? And what do you think about the possibility of that? Maybe Oakland getting an expansion team to make up for the Raiders no longer being there.
Well, again, it comes down to the stadium. And then when you're talking about a city that has multiple sports, in different sports, obviously with Oakland, you have the Athletics, and you're talking about billion-dollar stadiums, it starts taking a toll on on the constituents. And a lot of times they're just like, hey, do you want a new stadium or do you want some new schools? You can't have both, but you have the other people, their argument would be, well, we can generate more revenue with a sports franchise, and then we can have other events there because when it's not football season, you can have, I don't know, concerts, monster truck rallies, WWE wrestling events, boxing, whatever,
Right, you
so
can have all these events, right?
All these events. So do you want to pay $1 billion for a stadium? That's really what it comes down to. And do the people, your population, do they want to pay for it? Because most of the time these owners, they'll front some of the money, but when you're talking about, hey, I need $500 million from you, a lot of these guys, they're not willing. They're putting their own cash up, or business groups, they're putting up their own personal assets, and that's pretty tough to do.
Well, there was already a city that was all willing to put the money down, and that was St. Louis. A lot of people forget that St. Louis was willing to get rid of Edward Jones Dome and build a brand new stadium for St. Louis. Stan Kroenke obviously had a different mindset. So with that plan already established and all the land and everything pretty much put into place, what about St. Louis joining the NFL for not the one, not the second, but a third time in their history, rejoin the NFL?
Well, they have a lot of good history there. You look at a team, the St. Louis Cardinals, that are now the Arizona Cardinals, used to be there, and then even the Rams now, the LA Rams, the LA Rams used to be the St. Louis Rams. So it's possible. And again, it's like, how committed are you to it? You have some cheap owners. I mean, let's keep it real. We have some cheap owners out there, and they say they want certain things, but there's 32 teams. There's very limited, and generally these franchises are family businesses. You look at the Joneses with the Cowboys, the Fords with the Lions, the Maras with the Giants, and the Rooneys with the Steelers. The Bidwells with the Cardinals. These are family business. Do you have the assets and the resources to do it? You look at a guy like P. Diddy. Him and Floyd Mayweather were trying to buy the Carolina Panthers, and that shows you the difference between rich and wealthy. There is a difference. Generational wealth. The Fords, the people who built the cars, back in the day, Henry Ford, descendants of Henry Ford. I mean, that's a whole nother level of money. So if you don't have that kind of, you don't have those type of resources. You're going to have to probably get a business group to partner up with you to make an investment like that.
Yeah, you're going to have to take out loans. You're going to have all these things that are going to be put together to make this happen. But I agree with you when it comes to taxpayers and the fact that the city really is going to have everyone on board to make it happen. Now, when we come back here on the Sports Angle, we're going to continue with our NFL conversation. I'm your host, Rocco Rachiele. We are here with Marcus Betts from the Alpha Betts Football Show, part of the Rise Up family. And we will be right back just after this break. The Sports Angle, live in Las Vegas, the capital of the world. I'm host Rocco Kelly. Back into it. We're here with Marcus Betts from the Alpha Betts Football Show, part of the Rise Up family. Now, the NFL, we talked about the expansion in the last segment, but depth charts in the NFL are also a very important aspect of the game. All right, you have all these guys that are in that uniform, in the locker room, on that depth chart, part of that roster. I mean, you're going to have 65 guys that could include, practice squad and everyone involved. But there's a lot of teams that will neglect depth in order to be top heavy. I mean, we've seen the NFL time and time again where they will sacrifice key members of their bench in order to add a superstar to be their starter. So with that in mind, in the NFL, how important is it in terms of depth in order to make a Super Bowl run?
It's extremely important. One of the most recent examples that we can see of that was the Eagles a couple of years ago when they won their Super Bowl. And it's even more imperative when you have players that are injury prone. You have to make contingency plans that they're probably not going to be there. So you look at, the Eagles in that championship year, and, they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And why were they able to do that? Some of their offensive linemen get hurt. You get a guy like Vitae that comes in there, covers down. Carson Wentz breaks his leg. You had a contingency plan for him. Nick Foles comes in, wins you the Super Bowl. So it's great. This is a star-driven league, but you have to have, the truly great GMs are the ones that are able to. I can pretty much find you 22 starters, 11 on offense and 11 on defense. Can you find me special teams players? Can you find me the players 52 and 53? Those are the players that I need you to find. We all pretty much know every year we can find we have all these mock drafts. We're in draft season. The NFL draft is next month. We pretty much know that there's usually a couple of curveballs that are in there, but we pretty much know who the top 10 picks are going to be. Maybe not exactly in the order, but you got to be able to find those guys in the 4th round, 5th round, 6th round. That's generally where that's the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, and I think that debate has been settled. 7 Super Bowl championship. Was a what? Fifth round pick, 6th round pick.
He was a 6th round pick, 199th overall. There you go.
Yeah, so now does that happen all the time? No. But you gotta dig in. Me and you, we were talking offline about, Division II football. This is where your scouting department comes in at, your front office, going out there and finding your diamonds in the rough. Because the bottom line is you only have so much resources. Everybody's dealing with the same thing. Generally around $200 million salary cap. It usually jumps up $10 million a year. This year, they're going to lose a little bit because of everything we've gone through with the pandemic, with COVID. But it's going to be even more imperative this season with your depth, because you had a lot of guys in the college rank that opted out. So you haven't seen these guys play for a year. Okay, maybe he had a great 2019, but he didn't play in 2020. Has the guy been sitting around eating Doritos for the past year? Has he been training? So that's where your scouting department, your general manager, and guys that watch the film and are able to do it. And it's not an exact science. That's why these guys get paid the big bucks, because it is not an exact science. We've seen a lot of busts over the year. For every number 1 pick who succeeds, you have the Jamarcus Russells, you have the Ryan Leafs, you have guys like that. So it's not an exact science. The Rick Myers and guys like that. So you have to do your homework, and even doing your homework, you're it's a 50-50 proposition.
We're talking about how important depth is in the NFL, and I want to talk about the fact that Kansas City Chiefs general manager Brett Veach, he talked about this in good length, and it's very important with what's going on in Kansas City for why he's bringing this up. I mean, you got all these players that are going to want to get paid, and when you've made back-to-back Super Bowl appearances and you've won one of them, some of those guys are definitely going to get a pay raise. But how much is that going to affect how Kansas City's gone in terms of depth? Because a lot of people tend to forget that that's how Kansas City was built. Kansas City was built on having guys that were 4 deep, 5 deep at very important positions.
Well, it's the gift and the curse. That's the price of success, and that's been this way since free agency. If you have sustained success, people start poaching your good players off your team, and you have to make decisions, because if you're paying your quarterback $45 million, maybe you got to go with an undrafted free agent at certain other spots. So you have to, it's tough. It's when you start, having long-term success. It's a copycat league, and people start, okay, I want this guy from your team, or they try to emulate what you do. So that's it's you have to, again, this boils back down to your scouting department, looking in those later rounds, going to those smaller colleges. We know about the Alabamas, we know about the Florida States, we know about the Oklahomas and the Ohio States. We know about those teams, the USCs and the Oregons. Can you find me somebody out of Kent State or one of the directional schools, Eastern Rhode Island University? I'm being sarcastic with that, but that's where you find those. You got to find those diamonds in the rough.
Now, when it comes to positions, I'm glad you brought that up. Diamond in the rough. In the NFL, what position, in your opinion, needs the most depth? Is it your offensive line? Is it your wide receivers? Maybe it's a position on the defense that we're not thinking of. Is there a position that is so important that you have to have 5 deep, 6 deep?
Well, I think it's on both of the lines, on the offensive and defensive lines. We have an example, even in this past Super Bowl, offensive line depth. That's what beat Kansas City. When you lose a guy like Eric Fisher, and then you have that pass rush, that ferocious pass rush from Tampa Bay. It starts, Patrick Mahomes ran for 497 yards, scrambling, trying to avoid the pass rush. That is a testament. And I don't want to diminish what Tampa Bay did, because their defense played well most of the season. But the bottom line is it's won in the trenches. So, and then we said, going back to the Eagles championship a few years back, having a guy like Vitae in there to come in and cover down. So you better have some depth on your offensive line. You saw what happened to Dallas this past season. Generally, Dallas their strength has been on the offensive side of the ball. They invested 3 first-round picks on their offensive line. You look at a guy like Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and the recently retired Travis Frederick, to go into guys from wherever, and you saw the result of it. And that's, you saw Dak Prescott running for his life. And like I say all the time, if you're not able to protect your quarterback, I don't care if you got Joe Montana. I don't care if you got Tom Brady. We saw Tom Brady running for his life in a Super Cup in that 2007 Super Bowl. We saw Patrick Mahomes in this past Super Bowl. And if you're not able to protect your quarterback, you're probably not going to have much success.
When it comes to 2021, is there one team that you would look at and say they have the best depth in the NFL? Like, all 53 players, they contribute to that roster day in and day out. Is there one team you could think of?
Man, when I say this, I got a good friend of mine. He's going to be doing backflips when he hears this. I'm going to say the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, you look at they lost Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's one of the best. He's one of the best running backs in the league. And you bring in Kareem Hunt, who led the league in rushing as a rookie. They lost Odell Beckham Jr., and it seemed like Baker Mayfield played even better. So you look at, that they, with the J.J. Watt's sweepstakes that Arizona won. I don't know how that happened, but he was talking about going over there and maybe playing alongside a guy like Myles Garrett. So you look at a team like that, like the Browns, who are coming up. Their coach, he won the coach of the year. This is the same team that had Freddie Kitchens the year before, and 2 years before that, Hugh Jackson. So they were able to. It's pretty much the same team, and then to have that type of depth and that type of team, and you saw the success they had this year. So I would say a team like maybe the Cleveland Browns.
The Cleveland Browns are a really good choice, and the New England Patriots were always that kind of team. I mean, around the 2000s, 2010s. But I'm actually going to say the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to do a curveball here, and I say San Francisco. I mean, the way that they built the roster the last couple of years, the quarterback position's not great, but the rest of their roster has been built very solidly. So I would say the San Francisco 49ers, but when we come back from break, we're going to continue with our NFL conversation, and we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson. Is he willing to eat $20 million to sit on his couch for the 2021 season? We'll talk about that when we come back here on the Sports Angle. We'll be right back. The Sports Angle, live in Las Vegas, the capital of the world. I'm your host, Rachiele Kelly. Let's get back into it. We're here with Marcus Betts from the Alphabets Football Show, part of the Rise Up family. Deshaun Watson, he has been the talk of the town. He's been buzzing all over the United States. But there has been reports that if he doesn't get traded out of Houston, he'll just straight up put his feet up on his couch and just eat Doritos for the next 4 months. Now, I don't think that's actually going to happen, but if he decided to walk away for a year and eat up $20 million, what would your reaction be?
I'd be totally surprised to see that happen. Well, we have seen examples in history where guys did put their, they put their foot down. You look at a guy like Eli Manning, during the draft. John Elway during the draft, he's like, hey, if you draft me, I'll go play baseball. Eli Manning, he didn't want to go to the San Diego Chargers. Now, that was during draft time. I don't know if we've seen a situation where a guy actually just, hey, you know what? I will sit out this year and whatever, financial ramifications that there are.
Le'Veon Bell, maybe?
Who's that?
Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he did it. Yeah, he did it, but he did come back. He did come back. He reported because you have to. He wouldn't have got credit for that year, but he burned all the bridges. He burned all of those bridges. So yeah, I guess that's a kind of somewhat of an example, but there's a difference between running back money and quarterback money. Skipping out on $14 million, skipping out on $28 million, which is what Deshaun Watson's contract, his salary will be for this season. His average is $40 million a year. He signed a 4-year, $160 million contract with a $27 million signing bonus. So, I mean, a lot of that money has been paid up. He had $73 million guaranteed on signing. Now, generally, a lot of times, guys, they'll sit out training camp, and they'll sit out some of the games, and then when they eventually come back, a lot of times the front office will forgive them for the missing, the fines that they accrue during training camp. But he seems pretty set in with this. Monty, just let the man go. You all dropped the ball on this. You dropped the ball on this. They handled this situation terribly. Bill O'Brien he set this team back 6 or 7 years. Let the man go. Try to get as much as you can for him. I'd be talking to the Jets. I'd be talking to the Dolphins. I'd be talking to the Broncos. I'd be talking to the Raiders. There's a lot of teams that I would be talking to that more so the Jets and the Dolphins, because they have 2 draft picks, 2 first-round draft picks. So I would talk to people like that. But get whatever you can from them. You're the worst team in the AFC South. Even with him, you won 4 games last season. You only won 4 games with him last season. You're in a rebuild, and a lot of teams don't want to. They don't want to. That's a hard pill to swallow. You're a 3 or 4 win team. Without him, you're a 1 or 2 win team. Tear it all down. Get what you can for him. Get some assets, some draft picks. You can ask for whatever you want. You seen a team like the Rams, what they gave up to get Matthew Stafford. Trading for Jared Goff. You seen what happened in a situation like that? Tear it all down. Get some draft picks. Get a couple of good players. Start all over, because you're not going anywhere even with him. You let all your good players go. You let J.J. Watt go. You let Jadeveon Clowney go. You let DeAndre Hopkins go. Let the man walk and get something for him.
We're talking about the Deshaun Watson situation here on the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rocco Rachiele. We're here with Marcus Betts from the Alpha Betts Football Show, part of the Rise Up family. Now, to quote Biff Tannen, what's the matter? Chicken? I feel like this is a $28 million game of chicken. The Texans are like, we're not going to trade you. Watson's like, fine, I'm going to sit out. And we're going to see who calls each other's bluff. I feel like that's what was going on here. Do you think that's exactly what's going on here? It's just a $28 million game of chicken?
It is. But here's the thing about it. The Texans really lose. They're really the ones that lose, because the man can sit out for the first 8 weeks of the season. He can sit out for the first 8 weeks of the season. So in that time there, and then if you sit on this and you don't draft a quarterback, and you don't have a first-round pick this season because you traded it away in the Laramie Tunsil trade. So you don't even have a first-round pick. Your best bet is to see what team out there is offering you the most capital and let the man go. That's your best bet. Yes, you're gonna take a $21 million dead what is it, dead cap. You're gonna take a dead cap hit, but you're not going anywhere anyway. Right now, you are the fourth best team in the AFC South. Even the Jacksonville Jaguars, and looking what they did and them having the number one pick, bringing in a Trevor Lawrence, I believe you're worse than the Jacksonville Jaguars in this upcoming season. Tear it all down, start all over, get what you can for them.
I mean, for anybody who pays attention to these odds, like there's been all these websites that have posted odds about what will happen to a certain player. I mean, plus 400 that Deshaun Watson will never step foot in a Texans uniform again. And I truly believe that he will never be with the Houston Texans. And I think that Deshaun Watson's like, you know what? I'm fed up. I'm done. You haven't done anything for me. I mean, in fact, the first year I was there, you had the worst rated defense in the NFL. So clearly you don't care about me. All right, have fun with A.J. McCarron. He'll be your starting quarterback. Good luck with that. I'm going to go somewhere else. So if Deshaun Watson was going to demand, I want to go to one team and you have to make that phone call, who do you think it's going to be?
I think the best situation for him would be, well, the two best I think would be the Jets or the Miami Dolphins. I think the Miami Dolphins would be the best fit for him, playing in. And let me throw a wild card in there. Carolina. He played at Clemson, which is in South Carolina. Can I get? I saw a trade proposal that was offered on some sports show, and I saw 3 first-round picks and Christian McCaffrey. That's a pretty good. That's we'll give you the. I don't know what pick the Panthers have this year. 3 first-round picks. You can have our first-round pick. Do you know what pick they have? I don't know what pick. I don't know. The 8th overall. We'll give you the 8th overall pick this year, and our first-round pick in 2022 and 2023, and Christian McCaffrey. Hey, that's a nice little way. You got a star running back. Even though they just re-signed David Johnson today for a $6 million contract extension. Those 3 teams, the Panthers, Dolphins, because of their multiple first-round picks that they have 2 first-rounders. The Jets have 2 first-rounders. I think that would be the best way because they need picks. They need picks. They don't have any first. They don't have many draft picks. So I would be looking at teams with multiple first-round picks. That's who I'd be looking at first.
Absolutely, they need draft capital. Let me toss a wild card in there because I've said this multiple times on the sports angle, and I will keep saying it until it doesn't happen. The Washington football team. All right, they already said they're moving on from Alex Smith. They have draft capital, so you offer not 1, not 2, but a trio of first-round picks. And you include Chase Young. That would be my trade offer. I mean, I think if you're the Houston Texans, you win in that scenario, don't you? Chase Young and a trio of first-round picks.
If I'm watching, I don't know if I want to get rid of Chase Young. I'll get rid of one. I'll get rid of Montez Sweat or one of those hogs they have at the defensive tackle spot. I don't know if I want to get rid of Chase Young. He was pretty good. Hey, the reigning defending defensive rookie of the year, I don't know if I want to part ways with him. But you just never know. I mean, this goes to show you, if you don't have a quarterback, you look at the teams that have been struggling the past 20, 30 years. You're a Bears fan, I mean, look at the quarterbacks you've had in that span there, the Rex Grossmans and the Mitchell Trubisky's. When you have a hard time identifying your franchise quarterback, it's hard. It's a and you guys got a fairly decent team, but you got a good defense, but you don't have that trigger man. You don't have that face of your franchise. It's really hard to go forward and have any type of success.
We're going to continue with our NFL conversation here on the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rocco Rachiele. We're here with Marcus Betts from the Alphabet Football Show, part of the Rise Up family. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Sports Angle, live in Las Vegas, the capital of the world. I'm your host, Rachiele. We're here with Marcus Betts from the Alpha Betts Football Show, part of the Rise Up family. Now, there has been this report that has come out that the lease for the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium might come to an end in 2027. There has been talk that they could break their lease and eventually get their own stadium in Manhattan. Of course, this stadium would cost $1 billion. But what do you think about that idea of the New York Jets for the first time in 50-plus years not being with the Giants and having their own stadium?
I think that's awesome. Again, if the people are willing to eat the cost of that stadium, let's keep. Right now, the Jets are on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to the football teams in New York. Even though the Buffalo Bills are the only team that actually play in the state of New York, but for them to get out of there, the Jets have won a Super Bowl. The old Joe Namath guarantee game. You see the Eli Manning and Phil Simms Giants teams, and I just think for them to break away, they need to find a quarterback too. In the last segment we talked about team that what would be a good destination for Deshaun Watson, but get you a face of your franchise. Get you a new stadium. The Jets have had some pretty, pretty bad years, the past 30, 40 years, had a little bit of success with Parcells there. But I mean, for the most part, they've had a drought over there. So, I mean, that might be something you look at, like some teams, they make a move, they get away from something, they get a fresh start, get some new uniforms, a new logo. And, you look at a team like the Broncos, they changed their logo. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the old swashbuckler pirate with the knife in his mouth, and then to go from that to the pirate flag. Sometimes you need a new location. I mean, they'll be in New York, but just a new look and just a new direction. It changes the whole fortunes of your franchise.
Now, the financial part of it is something that is very key here, because a lot of people don't know that they share a 50-50 revenue split with the Giants at MetLife Stadium. But if they got their own stadium that they could build and they could have completed by 2026, 2027, that would be 100% with the New York Jets, that they could have all of it come in. So from a business standpoint, wouldn't that make the most sense for the Jets to no longer be, buddy with the Giants, be like, no, I want the whole bag?
Well, and then you look at too, you're like the little brother when it comes to the Giants. Again, because of the success. I would dare say you're the worst football team in the state of New York. I mean, you look at the success, recent success that the Bills have had, or hell, even the Bills' success during the '90s. Those Jim Kelly teams. You look at the Giants team. You look at the Lawrence Taylors and the Eli Mannings, and just to get away from that and to have your own little thing. You're taking in all your own revenue. You start drafting better. You just got a new coach. You got the defensive coordinator from the 49ers. Get you a new stadium. You got a new coach. Get you a good young look, good looking young quarterback, talented young quarterback. I don't know if Sam Darnold's that guy, but find that, get that answer at quarterback. And yeah, I think they could definitely do it.
We're talking about the possibility of the New York Jets having their own stadium in Manhattan, no longer being with the Giants. Here on the Sports Angle, I'm your host, Rachiele. We're here with Marcus Betts from the Alpha Betts Football Show, part of the Rise Up family. Now, this proposed stadium idea, it would have the New York City subway service. That would be included. They would have a convention center alongside it. Like, there is all this planning that's going into it. And it would be 85,000 seat capacity. But do they really need 85,000 seats for one team? Like, doesn't that kind of seem like a bit much? Or is this New York where you go big or you go home?
I believe you go big. And the stadium right now, MetLife Stadium, is in New Jersey. it would be really cool to see a stadium in downtown New York. I think that or on the outskirts of New York City. I think that would be awesome. Um, yeah, go for it. 85,000. They'll definitely support it. They'll definitely support it. We talked about earlier the largest city in North America. Mexico City. Well, number two is New York City. So get up in there. You build you build a stadium and the people will come, I guarantee you.
Now, to segue from one team that could be in New York to the team that is only in New York, and that is the Buffalo Bills, there has been talk for the last 5 years about building the New Era Field 2 or the Bills Stadium Part 2, but really nothing has come of it. I mean, it's all been talk and speculation. But what do you think about the Buffalo Bills potentially getting rid of that old stadium that doesn't want to die with New Era Field and replacing it with a new one?
Well, again, that's the business that's the direction that sports franchises are going to have a modern, high-tech stadium. When you're competing against, these other franchises, you've got to have that. The luxury box suites. You have to make it a destination, and that's where your free agents come in. Your training facilities, your stadium. That's what draws those big name free agents that could come in there and change the fortunes of your team. The Pagulas, they've done a pretty good job the past few years. You see what Sean McDermott has done there. Drafting Josh Allen, they took a chance on him. He was one of the finalists for the MVP for this season. So that's you keep getting things like that, new toys, and I think a stadium. And we know what Bills Mafia is. It's hard for me to admit. I get called a Bills hater. With my I get called a Bills hater with my people over with the Rise Up family, but they have a loyal fan base, and I believe if they build a stadium, the people will be right there. They'll be right there, just like they always are at Orchard Park. So we'll go for it.
All right. And we talked about the Jets, we talked about the Bills, but let's include all of the teams. Let's just not center it on New York. Is there any team in the NFL that, in your opinion, needs a new stadium? They need an upgrade. They need something fresh. Is there a team that comes to mind?
I kind of like some of the old stadiums. I mean, you look at a stadium like Lambeau Field. I mean, it's just it's Lambeau. The frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. I mean, it's just a plain, just old stadium. They haven't really done much to it, but I love the stadium. I think your Bears could use a new stadium, Soldier Field. I think they could definitely. If we're talking, but again, I don't know if I told you I was born in Chicago. My dad used to be a diehard Bears fan, but they could definitely use it. But again, part of the mystique to certain teams is that the nostalgia of their old stadium, like a Lambeau Field, Soldier Field, or whatnot. So could they use one? Yeah, but I kind of like it the way it is. That's just me though. But hey, I got the $1 billion playpen in Dallas, so hey.
Yeah, it's kind of not fair. You have one of the top 2 stadiums in all the NFL, alongside Allegiant Stadium for all the people out here in Las Vegas. But I'm going to toss one out here that I think could use major renovations, and that's Ford Field out there in Detroit. Like 25 years ago, it was this brand new state-of-the-art facility. When you compare it to the rest of the league, it really doesn't look that special now. I mean, you agree with that?
Well, not to be disrespectful, it's the Detroit Lions, and they don't do it. You have some teams that just kind of they don't. They're cheap. They're cheap. You're billionaires. Come on, man. Come on now. And then in their defense, I just took a cheap shot at them. But in their defense, you look at the socioeconomic things of what's going on in Detroit with the loss of with the auto industry. Again, people don't want to hear about a new stadium whenever they lost their job at the car factory. So, you know, you have to take things like that. You kind of got to take the, you know, the sensitivity as far as that, you know. So, yes, they could use it, but I don't know if the city of Detroit really cares about a new billion-dollar stadium in that area when there's people that, you know, they're just kind of bouncing back from the collapse of the auto industry, you know, and the bailout and things and whatnot. So yeah, they could use it, but I don't know if that would be their their number one priority as far as that.
All right. We have 45 seconds left. So Marcus, tell everyone about the Alphabets Football Show, where they can find it, and what is it?
Make sure you come on over to look online, Facebook, the Rise Up Family page. Come and check us out. We got a bunch of good shows on there. I do a show on Friday nights during football season. We're taking a hiatus right now. We'll be back next month with my co-host, Ramona Die, my co-host. Real knowledgeable. Check out some of the other shows on there. Go in there and check it out. We got chat rooms and things like that. Come check us out. I think you'll enjoy it. So come on over and check us out.
And obviously, if everyone is listening right now, go to our website, thesportsangle.com. Check out our live streams, our video, our audio, everything we have on there. And like us on social media at The Sports Angle. I'm your host, Rocco Rachiele. So long, everyone.